So while rumors swirl around DHS Secretary Kristi Noem standing with President Trump, Democrats are clear where they stand. House Homeland Security Committee Democrats say they'll impeach her if she does not leave the job. With me now for the morning roundup, former U.S. Attorney Michael Moore, journalist and professor Nicole Carr, and comedian Rachel LaForce. Welcome to you all. I'm going to get to that question in just a moment. But first, the president overnight posted on social media this I guess, promise now that he's not going into Democratic-led cities to deal with protests unless they ask and say please. But there will be strong force by ICE and Border Patrol to protect federal buildings. First, what does ICE and Border Patrol have to do with protecting federal courthouses?
Yeah, well, I'm glad to be with you. They have no role in it. I mean, remember that these aren't standard law enforcement folks. They have a very limited role to protect the border, and that's why we typically see them there. And that's what's made some of the problems why we've had some conflict is they're not trained in urban law enforcement, and they're used to patrolling the border. There are some provisions where he can bring folks in to protect federal buildings. We saw some of that when he brought in the National Guard or activated them in some places to protect
Los Angeles.
That's right,
yeah.
To protect federal structures. But this is just a ruse. He's just wanting to have them present, but not say that they're really present, and claim that they're there for some legitimate purpose.
Yeah. The future of DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, in which Democrats say, and I had one on with me yesterday, Benny Thompson, who said that she has to go either be fired, resign, or impeached. Is that what voters heading into the next election want Democrats to focus on? I mean, they're in the minority, but they can force a resolution vote. Is that what Democrats want or voters want them to focus on, considering the economy has been at the list of priorities?
Well, all you have is chaos all the time. What do we focus on? And is this any more or less important than the next thing? I think it's all important, right? People are being terrorized in their home cities. They are. And not to take us back to our last topic, but you're saying this is not the role of this agency. These folks went into a consulate a few days ago in Minneapolis, the Ecuadorian consulate's office. That's not your role. You can't do that. That's not legal. Yeah. Since when do the rules apply? So I do think Americans, voters, want to see people held accountable for the chaos that's ensuing across the country right now. I do think that's fair to say, all while we're trying to hold on and survive and go day to day, the groceries, the gas, the economy is trash. Yeah, but it's okay to care about all of these things because it's a part of a chaos that we can't continue to function under.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think there's just an alignment because what you're talking about is the chaos. Yeah. I'm really glad to not be in a position, just to tell jokes because the idea of really, I mean, not to make light of it, but yeah, it's like, what do they do? What do you go after? Mm-hmm. And so I think what really voters want and what people are focused on is like, tell us that you have a plan. Like, where is the alignment? What are we doing? Because they've done a great job at causing chaos. And so we need to do a better job at aligning and making a plan of action and executing that plan. I think that's really what people want to see.
We don't need Pyrrhic victories anymore. I mean, I think that doesn't carry the day. What they need, I think, what people expect from their representatives now is to become true obstructionists in the sense of using the power that they have. So, for instance, make people read, make every Senate bill be read in full length. Mm-hmm. Quit voting, agreeing to vote things simply without having a voice vote of everybody present. I mean, do some things to slow it down until we can get to a place where hopefully we see in the 2026 midterms that there's a shift, and then you can control things like the budget. Otherwise, block the budget. We're all wanting to be agreeable to look like this is the norm, and I think people in the Capitol are maybe starting to realize that, do I need to hang on to my seat or do I need to do something that actually protects and affects the public?
Let me add that the ICE agents say that they didn't know that it was a consulate. That's the statement from DHS. But on the question of Alex Preddy specifically, which his killing last weekend, in addition to Renee Good's killing and the detention of Liam Ramos, as I talked about this morning, they've really been flashpoints. And we heard from the Deputy AG, Todd Blanche, that there is a civil rights investigation, but then he kind of backed off of it a little bit. Let's play what he said.
Are you saying that the Justice Department has opened a civil rights investigation into his death? Yes, I don't want to overstate what's happening. I don't want the takeaway to be that there's some massive civil rights investigation that's happening. This is what I would describe as a standard investigation by the FBI when there's circumstances like what we saw last Saturday, and that investigation, to the extent it needs to involve lawyers at the Civil Rights Division, it will involve those.
Michael, what do you hear there?
I hear somebody wanting to say I'm a little bit in and a little bit out. I mean, you can't have a little bit of a civil rights investigation any more than you can be a little bit pregnant. You know, it's sort of like this is, you either are in or you're out. And so you expect to see the Civil Rights Division come in and do a normal investigation, and that is to put the investigative resources, the full force of the department behind it to do those things necessary to decide and determine in a transparent way whether or not there's something happened. But you can't say we're launching a civil rights investigation, but it's really not that. We're just going to kind of do a little bit on the side as if that's going to pacify and quell down some of the arguments. I really think this is something that should have been done hand in hand with the state. You can't have a federal agency investigating itself. That's just not the way things are done, because nobody then has any confidence in the outcome.
Nicole, I know one of the stories that you've been focused on this week, and we've all been focused on, is the arrest of Don Lemon and Georgia Ford, both now independent journalists who went into the church to cover the protest, anti-ICE protest at the city's church in St. Paul. I think we have sound from the president last night, and he was asked if he knew about the arrest of Don Lemon.
No, I don't know anything about the Don Lemon thing, but he's a sleazebag. Everyone's known that. He's a wash-up. Probably, from his standpoint, the best thing that could happen to him. He's getting, he had no viewers. He was a failure. He was a failed host, and now he's in the news. I didn't know anything about it. No.
Actually, he has a pretty big audience on YouTube and all the social media as well. But this is your big story of the week. Why?
You know about it. The White House is posting little memes and smart takes about
when life gives you lemons.
When life gives you lemons.
Yeah.
It's like cut the crap on that. We've been in a danger zone for a long time. And the ways that I've related this moment, both in my own Substack community, in teaching a history of the Black press, is that we've seen what happens when the federal government goes after journalists, when they criminalize journalists. The historic Black press has faced this in ways when we're fighting for democracy overseas, and you had Black journalists here in the newspapers saying, hey, we have inhumane conditions here. We're under Jim Crow rule. And Hoover's FBI says, hey, this is espionage. You can't print this stuff. This is anti-American. This is, you're violating, you're going against your country. These are cooked up charges. It is very scary to see a judge determine that this has no weight. And then for not just Don in Georgia, but we had two other journalists, two Black journalists. We had 4 Black journalists detained. You telling me they're the only ones out there covering anything, bearing witness? This isn't a dog whistle anymore. The administration is sending a very clear sign that we will get any one of you, and we don't care about rules.
And some of the journalist advocate organizations have said that the point is not so much the charges themselves, but it's to chill the journalism about the administration. Michael, Nicole, Rachel, stay with me. We got more coming up after this break. Still ahead, Nicki Minaj fully embracing her role as President Trump's self-proclaimed #1 fan. We'll dig into Minaj's foray into MAGA world. Next.
Have I got